I'm live. Hold on. I was checking something and now I am live. Hello, everyone. So good to be here. This is Leandra, and I'm here for a quickie with business with Miss Emily Russell. Emily is going to be here very soon. Hi, Emily. She sent a request. So, yes, let's have Emily. Come on, Emily. Hello, everyone. Um, welcome. This is Quickie with Business, and today, oh, Emily's here. Hi.
Hi,
How are you,
good.
Emily?
How are you?
I'm good. So good to talk to you. For that, we never talk. It's so good to have you
I
here.
know. That's why I was like, oh yeah, we just get to have a cool conversation.
I know, that's so cool. Well, thank you for joining me. And well, basically, it's a talk about business, right?
Yes.
You are a Joy Business Facilitator. You've been creating with business for so long now. And just, I would like to start with a question,
Yes.
like, what was your first business? And from there to now, how much has it changed?
This is so good. So what's funny is I never thought I had a business.
Uh-huh.
And but I would say my first business, if I looked at like jobs,
Yeah.
I was a globe trotting person. I wanted to travel like after college. I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I'd like to, you know, live in different places and experience and travel. So I waitressed and bartended for many years. Like
Ah,
and we used I save up all my
yeah,
money and then go travel and meet people. And I was so inspired by everyone that you'd meet. They'd be
yeah,
like, oh, have you been here yet? Have you
yeah.
been here yet? I'm like, no, on my list. And I'd go back and I'd create money, because it's so great when you waitress and bartend in America because you get tips and it's all in cash,
Yeah.
and then save up the cash for my next trip. So that was like, I would say, my first kind of like,
And you're like 19,
yeah,
20, like, yeah,
yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah. Yeah, and then I did that for a while, and then one of my adventures took me to Japan, and I that's when I started teaching. So I was like an English teacher in Japan
Ah,
for a year, and then I was like, oh, I like this teaching thing. And then so then I when I moved back to the States after that, I got my master's degree in teaching, and then started teaching high school,
uh-huh.
which I loved. And then fast forward years later, I get the Joy of Business book, right? Because I
Yeah.
discovered the tools of access. And I think that was the second book I had bought with different tools and stuff, which is written by Simone Milasas, who trains us in being Joy of Business facilitators. So I'm
Amazing.
reading the book and like underlining and highlighting it and dog earing all the pages. But I'm like, I don't have a business though. Like, why am I finding this so interesting? But this doesn't apply because I've only had jobs.
Yeah.
And at that time I wasn't even working because I had two little babies. I was like stay-at-home mom, another business, right?
Yeah.
But I hadn't acknowledged any of those were businesses. I thought you had to own your own company or own your own thing
Hmm.
to have a business.
Something
Now I
has to be written in a paper, right? Or you have to have a
yeah,
degree on it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
I totally get
and then
it.
reading that, I started to acknowledge, because Simone says in there, like, your whole life is your business. Like, it is like taking care of your kids, and if you do have a job you go to, and all the creation in your life is that. I was like, oh, like I love being in business. Like, okay,
I've basically been in business my whole life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That awareness is so cool.
It's so cool. And so, what do how do you see that difference now? Like, is there like tools or questions that you like your go-to if there's something coming up with your business, or if there's something that you're creating and you're like, how do how do you create and how do you use the tools?
Yeah, well, because now it is really, I started. I've worked with access consciousness for many years, like for the company,
Hmm.
and then I started really creating facilitating my own business as a facilitator. Especially like really grew that during COVID,
Yeah.
and so as that occurred, I was like, oh, I actually need a team of people. So okay, now this is a different kind of business and creation, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think now I maybe have like 6 or 7 people on my team, on my gaggle. That's been as high as 10 at times. And that has been a whole new learning curve. Because when you are like, and being the creative energy and also having your awareness on everything from finances to interpersonal stuff with the team together, and like them together, and then with me, and it's, you know, and then still having my job with the company. So my favorite question that really, I have a sticky note on my computer so that I remember to ask it every day, is like, who and what requires my attention today? And what would create the greatest future? Because there's so many things, right? I could be like responsive to, but if you get in reaction mode with your day, I mean, we all have to create lists or things we need to do. And if you just go off of that, you end up like filling your day in response to everyone else rather than choosing, you know? So like, you know, and like when asking questions, we talk about, okay, like I asked that, I don't try to figure that out mentally, like who requires me, I ask it. And then what will occur is, you know, we get like the email notifications on our phone and the ones that require me will like pop out, or they'll just like be in my awareness in my head. I'm like, oh, that project or that person requires my attention today. Okay. And then from there, creating your day from the choices of that, and that making it a priority, basically.
I love that. And I love that you added the future. So it's like, it really opens up to more. Yeah.
So much
I love
more,
that.
because it's like not just handling daily stuff, like what would create the greatest future. Okay, maybe this is a piece to handle today, but like the ones that are going to go whoosh.
I love the wish. And Emily, we might, you know, I'm sure we have people watching now in the future that, you know, will be like, oh, I really would like to start a business, but, you know, where do I start? Oh, am I capable? You know, do you have any tips or questions that you could ask them?
Yes. And you all watching may not think this is a great answer, but it truly is. To start is to just start. Like that tip of not trying to figure it out. Like, yes, you require certain information, but also like you have to start taking action to know what you need to ask, what information you do need. If you sit there and go, oh my God, I have to have a website, and then I need to have, who's going to do my graphics, who's going to do like all of this, you just get frozen because there's so much. But as you just start taking actions, then you go, oh, now this is required. That's how, I mean, I did a lot of my business on my own at first. And I was like, okay, I need someone, I can't do this on my own. I've taught myself about as much as I can with building my own website. Now who else do I need to add? And then added that person. And then from there I was like, oh, okay, who else? So really just starting and not stopping yourself from like getting overwhelmed with how much there could be. And allow yourself to start wherever you're at. Wherever you are at now is where you're starting. You don't have to look to other people and go, oh my gosh, that person has like, you know, seems to have it all, especially on social media. Don't go down that rabbit hole, right? Like
it's all figured.
They have like X number of followers. They must have it figured out, or their website looks great. It's like, you never know what's going on in the background or the steps they put in to get there, but you are where you're at. So start where you're at and what lights you up. Like what, when you wake up in the morning, if you could really create, like have a magic wand, create your life, what do you have so much fun doing or so much ease doing that you don't even think it could be a business? Like you don't possibly think it could be a job. And then start asking questions. I wonder, how could I make this a revenue stream? Or if I could create a business from this, I didn't worry about the how right now. Like, what would that be? You know, back in September, like I said, up in that point, I think I had like 10 people on my team, and I was not enjoying my life. Like I have 2 kids, travel for work for the company of Access, had my own business, was scheduling myself like from waking up to dropping kids off. I had like meeting. And I was like, or facilitation class, you know, and I was like, wait a second, this is not actually what I desire. I asked for a lot of this. Now it's showing up like this. How can I rearrange it and recreate it so it works for me? And I looked at that question. Oh, Saul joined. Hi. I asked that question of, okay, really, what am I most excited about? Like if I were to prioritize this, what do I love? And I was like, wow, it's so much of the energetic stuff that I'm facilitating that I love. And so I was like, okay, how could I add that in more? And how could I prioritize things so I love every every creation I'm on, every meeting is fun, you know? And that really changed stuff for me. So it's a great question to ask.
Yeah. And did it take like, suddenly you're like, oh my God, you're like, what? And then you went to question. How was it for you to really get into, oh, okay, I can actually ask a question and then follow up what is fun for me, like you
Yeah.
said. Was that something like this, or it took you to get in a point like, okay, this is crazy?
I let myself get to a crazy point, and I was like, that's an interesting, I'd do that to myself. But for me,
no one does that. Only you.
Only me. Right? It's like we allow ourselves to reach some certain level of stress, suffering, I don't know, before we make a different choice. And I was like, okay, this has been working for a while, and it did for a while. And I was like, but now something else is required. So it took after asking that, and I basically, you know, I fired myself and everyone from my
business. I love that. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if I could recreate this as anything, you know, and of course there are a couple like core of my staff. I was like, hey, for this month, I'm paying you, but you don't like, I'm not doing anything for this month. I'm like not facilitating, and like, let's see what shows up. So I had them to ask questions with too, and just let it percolate kind of in my world. And in that, I had different people also reach out to me because they like saw me sharing, like posting about it. Hey, I fired myself and my business is like reworking. And then I had different people reach out to me. Hey, like in the future, you know, when you recreate this, just know like I'm interested or I'm available. And I just kind of let all of those pieces be for a bit and gave myself space and really allowed then from that space to the awarenesses to come to me. And I looked at, okay, if I were to make a new like year-long program, and I know the energy stuff is really exciting to me, I'm like, okay, so I started like Energy Savant School, and I had it be a call, but also a symphony session, a group taster each month. So I was like, oh, then I get to play with that all the time. And then I just let that be for a few months before I started adding in other things. And I was like, okay, now like, what else would I like to add? From that place of, you know, I love all of us that are really creative usually do better, for lack of a, you know, of when we add things that we really are excited about, which seems weird because you're like, you don't want to get to the stress like, mode. But when from that new place, I kept being like very, like, what would I like to add? And still have this space for me, like, so I can do my hour of yoga a day, so I can be with my girls, so I can contribute to Access Consciousness, the company. And then there's just been this ease with adding things. When I'm like, yes, I'm so excited, rather than when things were seeming like an obligation. If things start seeming like an obligation and you're resenting going to your job or coming on meetings or doing whatever you do, then it's like, okay, that's the universe and you having an awareness. Something just needs to change.
Yeah. And I love how present you are with the questions and how everything starts to shift and change. And wow, thank you for that.
And you have to be patient, like a note to, because I'm impatient myself, and you want to ask this and like get the awareness right away to be able to change everything. And if you relax and allow that to come to you, it's a lot more clear, and your mind won't figure out. Your mind wants to figure out an answer really quickly. But when you allow just to ask a question to be out there, I know for me then it's like, hey, have you checked out like this person's website? Like I get I'm like, oh no, I haven't. And then I'll go there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love the way they do this. Okay, now what would I like to extrapolate? Rather than trying to figure out the problem you think you have right then with your mind, it's like, just ask some questions. Yeah. And then you have to be a little patient for the universe to rearrange and then gift you, you know, those little like, oh, that book, that course, that person I need to talk to or meet, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Patient and kind. There's a kindness on where how you were with the whole thing and the whole change.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Emily.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add, or any questions that you'd leave us with before you go?
Oh, good question. My brain is so funny today. I'd add my favorite question that you guys could ask yourselves, which is, what do I know that I have not acknowledged about? You could just leave it that general. You know, also if you're working in an area, what do I know here that I've decided I don't know, or pretending I don't know, think I don't know, but really, what do I know from this? Like, wow, we all have a knowing. And I think in business especially, there's so much out there telling you this is the way to do it. And they give you like this like A to Z plan, which could work, but that's from their knowing of what worked for them. And when you start to go, what do I know? That's one of those questions the universe will start showing you. It's not about the trainings. It's not about the schooling. It's not about you know something really unique. And it's in those areas that probably are really easy for you that you'll start to go, oh my gosh, like this is fun. I know this. And exploring that.
I love that. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is so much fun.
It is, isn't it?
It's like, you know, having girl chat about business. I love it.
I know. Well, thank you for joining. And it is a quickie. It's 15 minutes. This is it.
Love it.
And for anyone joining in and want to know more about Emily, I will add her website on the descriptions. And please go and check. Emily, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Leandra. Thank you, everybody, for being on, or if you're watching it in the future.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.